Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today on the show, I'm going to tell you why the Pittsburgh Steelers should not draft a quarterback early in the 2026 NFL Draft. For me, guys, I think that this is a situation where the Steelers should try and get a player that, can help you out at a position, whether that's nose tackle, whether that's wide receiver, whether that's corner. I don't think quarterback is the correct strategy early in the 2026 NFL Draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and today I'm going to tell you why that is. Now, before we get into the content, make sure you guys predict it for me down there in the comment section to kick us off today. Who will be Pittsburgh's Week 1 starting quarterback next season? Will it be Aaron Rodgers? Will it be Will Howard? Will it be somebody else that's not on the roster right now? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section and give me your prediction for who the Week 1 starter will be for Pittsburgh in 2026. Now, first off, guys, and probably number one reason why I'm probably out on drafting a quarterback early in the NFL Draft this year when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers is that this isn't a great quarterback class. It was supposed to be, but there's been a lot of older quarterback prospects that really disappointed this year in college football. You guys can take a look at the current consensus QB rankings for this year's draft class. Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore are the two bona fide first-rounders in this class. They're going to be going very early. Ty Simpson is currently ranked number 17 on the consensus big board right now. It's currently up in the air whether or not he even comes out. He might transfer, he might stay at Alabama, and he might come out into the NFL Draft. He still has to make his decision. But then a bunch of guys that were supposed to go higher at some point in their college football careers really disappointed this year. Garrett Nussmeier, I'm actually surprised he's still up at number 47. I think he's probably a day 3 guy. The consensus board has him as a day 2 pick at this point. Cade Klubnik currently ranked at number 82. Drew Aller coming off a big injury here with his knee. He's going to be 115th right now. And then Carson Beck ranked 130. And I was actually surprised John Mateer from Oklahoma is ranked that low on the consensus big board. It's still up in the air whether Mateer will come out in this year's NFL Draft or not. My guess is he goes back to school for one more year. But if he comes out, honestly, Mateer might be the number 4 quarterback, at least on my list right now. But plain simply, guys, when it comes to the quarterbacks that are worth first-round picks, the top 2 guys, Mendoza and Moore, the 2 bona fide first-rounders in this class that we're pretty sure are coming out, they're probably going to go number 1 and number 2. The Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Jets, 2 quarterback-needy teams, are drafting number 1 and number 2. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of drama at the top of the 2026 NFL Draft this year, and they're going to be off the board extremely quickly. So if the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make a play for a quarterback in round 1 this year, it'd likely have to be for Ty Simpson, and that's even if the Alabama product comes out into this year's NFL Draft. And, for me, guys, Simpson, there's some things to like about him. He's got a strong arm. He's a former 5-star athlete. He's got some pretty good athleticism and some decent pocket presence, and he plays in a pro-style offense with Ryan Grubb there at Alabama, and he rips the ball over the middle of the field with touch and accuracy. But, I would say the accuracy definitely dipped in the second half of the season this year. The true deep ball down the sideline is not all that fantastic, and, he definitely wasn't as good in the second half than he was in the first half of the season this year, and he's also a tad bit undersized as well. So even though Simpson, I think a team can definitely talk themselves into drafting Ty Simpson, is he really the type of player that you want to trade up for or use your first-round draft pick on, especially if you probably aren't going to start him day 1 if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026? I think it's a very good question to ask, so let's ask it right here. Would you approve of the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson in round 1 this year? Type A if you would approve of that draft pick, or type D if you would disapprove. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so in just a second here, we're going to talk about our sponsor today. While I talk about our sponsor today, simply give me an A for approve or D for disapprove to let me know your take on our pinned question. With that, if you guys want to get a t-shirt or a hat to commemorate the Pittsburgh Steelers' 2025 AFC North Championship, we've got all the officially licensed gear on our website right now. You guys can go to chatsports.com/AFC North. If you guys want to wear the official gear that was worn by the players on the field and in the locker room after the Steelers defeated the Baltimore Ravens in Week 18, and a game that I will always remember, and I'm sure you guys will as well. If you guys want to remember this season as one of the more memorable seasons in Pittsburgh Steelers history, no matter what we do in the playoffs here, go chatsports.com/AFC North to get your officially licensed AFC North Division Championship gear for your Pittsburgh Steelers today. Now, personally, guys, I would pass on quarterback altogether in the early rounds for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, I think the earliest you even think about taking a quarterback, at least in my opinion, is round 3. But honestly, I would rather, if you're going to draft a quarterback, draft one on day 3, all right? Round 4, round 5, maybe even round 6 again, like they did with Will Howard last year. And I think a big reason why I believe that is that Pittsburgh's going to be in win-now mode in 2026, okay? They're not going to be rebuilding, and I know a lot of Steelers fans want to, tear it down and start over and all this different stuff, but that's just very unlikely to happen, okay? I'm just going to tell you guys that right now. First of all, 2026 is likely going to be Cam Hayward's final season. Cam has talked about how this is likely his final contract before he retires, and 2026 is the year where his contract ends. So it's likely going to be Cam's final season next year. It's also going to likely be an extension year for Coach Mike Tomlin. Of course, the Steelers, the way they usually do business with Coach T is that when there's 1 year left on his deal, they give him an extension. There's 2 years left on his deal heading into next year. My expectation is that Mike Tomlin will be back for a 20th season as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I expect the Steelers to pick up his 2027 option that is due in March. And then after the 2026 season, depending on how it all finishes, they could extend him or they could decide not to extend him if it doesn't go the way that the Steelers are hoping for. So Cam has an incentive to win at a high level. Coach T has an incentive to win at a high level next year and not rebuild. Plus, most of the 2026 roster is already set. When you look at the roster heading into next year, guys, there's not a whole lot of big needs. You need to figure out the quarterback situation. You got to figure out who's going to play that position. You got to figure out the wide receiver position. Got to lock down the left guard situation and left tackle situation, and then you got to fill the number 2 outside cornerback spot, and then of course you have to fill in certain depth pieces here and there, bring back Kenny Gainwell, but all those things are super doable, and also you got 12 draft picks as well, so this roster is pretty well set to be competitive in 2026. So I don't really think that this team is set up to embrace a full-blown rebuild like some fans want here in Steelers Nation this offseason. And plain and simply, guys, when it comes down to brass tacks, rookie quarterbacks who are starters don't usually win. And when they do, have success, they very rarely have playoff success, right? And that's what we're hoping to get in Pittsburgh, at least with Cam Hayward, in the final years of his career, is that we're trying to win Super Bowls, which is why the Pittsburgh Steelers have brought in veteran quarterbacks over the last several seasons. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, guys with experience, Super Bowl champions, because younger quarterbacks with limited playoff experience tend to not play as well in the postseason. So if the goal is to win now, like drafting Ty Simpson to play right away isn't really going to help you accomplish that goal, in my opinion. My guess is Aaron Rodgers is going to be back. Unless the Steelers win the Super Bowl this year, which, hey, you never know, but I would say the vast majority of the percentage is that the Steelers won't win the Super Bowl this year, and that's okay. Hopefully they can win at least one playoff game, and hopefully they can give us a nice, fun little run here and maybe give us some hope and a chance here in January and maybe even into February. But unless the Steelers win the Super Bowl, I think Aaron Rodgers is likely going to be back. He's been talking about how he wonders what it would look like in a second year here in Pittsburgh with the continuity and all this different stuff. And I would be interested in bringing Aaron Rodgers back as well. The people in the locker room love Aaron. He's been playing at definitely a high enough level for this team to be competitive. And you can give him a couple receiving options and a couple better receiving options for downfield passing next year. I think this offense could be really good with Aaron Rodgers playing at 43 years old next year. And I think, with Cam coming back for one more year, Mike Tomlin and a big year for him, I think Rodgers is going to want to come back for one more season here in Pittsburgh. But even if he retires, we'll get to the retirement scenario here in just a second, but I also think Pittsburgh probably keeps Mason Rudolph around for another year as QB2. They like Mason as a veteran backup option, okay? They know that they can win games with Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback in the interim, with, of course, Aaron Rodgers potentially going down with an injury. So I think that they're probably going to keep their number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks in their quarterback rotations the same next year, okay? Because it is going to be a win-now season, and the veteran presence in there and the continuity is going to help the Steelers, potentially do their best to try and get Cam Hayward a ring before he retires here. But even if Rodgers retires, guys, I think they still bring in another veteran quarterback, whether that's Malik Willis in free agency, whether that's Kyler Murray via trade, whether that's Geno Smith, whether that's, Daniel Jones. There's a couple different options out there. There's not a ton of awesome options on the veteran quarterback market next year, but because the Steelers are going to be embracing a win-now philosophy, or at least I think they will, if Rodgers retires, I think they do probably go with another veteran quarterback option. So listen, man, if that's the case and, you're not going to be starting a rookie next year and you're not rebuilding and, you're not going to take a year to develop a quarterback before he hopefully develops into a bona fide NFL starter, I would rather use our first-round pick next year to help us win in 2026. If it's a win-now strategy in 2026, I'd rather get a really good player that can be a starter right away and help this team potentially win a championship in 2026 instead of drafting a quarterback to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year and have them just sit on the bench. I mean, this is what the Steelers could have done this year, right? You could have had either Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck when you drafted in the first round this year. And listen, man, Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck look like legitimate long-term options for their respective franchises. Good for them and good for those teams. But the Steelers are in win-now mode. And if you wouldn't have drafted Derek Harmon in the first round, I believe this run defense would be in a very, very tough spot. Without Derek Harmon, I really believe that, this Steelers team would not be in the postseason right now, and this season would have been a failure. So, personally, I'm glad we took Derek Harmon when we did. I think he's an awesome player. I think he's going to be a mainstay in this defense for years to come, and I want to take a very similar approach in 2026 if Rodgers is returning and you have a veteran at the helm as your QB1, okay? And if you're going to draft a quarterback, in my opinion, pick one, a traitsy one with some upside on day 3, because those players do exist, okay? And we'll talk about kind of the traitsy guys here in just a second that you could consider if they fall to day 3. You got a lot of day 3 picks. You could spend one on, an intriguing prospect that maybe was a former projected first-round pick and maybe see if you can develop him a little bit. And then when you take that quarterback on day 3, you can have that rookie compete with Will Howard for the QB3 spot. And it's even possible that you could, keep all 4 of those quarterbacks on the roster. Aaron Rodgers is QB1, then you have Mason Rudolph as QB2, then during camp you have Will Howard and this new rookie battle it out for the 3rd roster spot, and then you have that 4th quarterback on your practice squad to continue developing, all right? So you could do that strategy next year, and, you just got to keep taking, dart throws at the dartboard here and see if something sticks and, go with the upside when it comes to day 3 draft picks. That's my philosophy. And when it comes to day 3 guys that, were formerly, really highly touted college football prospects as NFL guys, all these guys, except for maybe Jalen Daniels, was talked about at one point as a potential first-round pick. And, Cade Klubnik, really good size and arm strength and talent. Same thing with Drew Aller, who has a fantastic arm. You give him a year to learn under Aaron Rodgers and sit behind him. Who knows what we could get out of a guy like Drew Aller. And then Garrett Nussmeier, I don't know if I love the Nussmeier thing. He throws a lot of interceptions, and I'm not sure if that's a fit for Mike Tomlin, but Carson Beck is somebody that's shown some good things in college as well. And then Jalen Daniels, I would say, is another guy to keep your eye on. He's 220 pounds and can run like a deer. He's got some good arm strength. He's got some tools that you could potentially mold over a year behind Aaron Rodgers. So, that's probably the plan that I would take if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I want to draft a young quarterback this year, I'm not trading up for Ty Simpson. I'm not using my first-round pick on Ty Simpson. I'm going with my veteran quarterback, and I'm kind of passing the buck here to the 2027 QB draft class to take my next QB of the future. It should be a much better QB draft class in 2027. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Should Pittsburgh draft a quarterback this year at all? And if so, which quarterback do you want them to draft? And then in what round do you think would be a good value to get that quarterback? Do you want Ty Simpson in round 1? Do you want Drew Aller in round 4? Do you want Jalen Daniels in round 6? What do you guys think? Let me know down there in the comment section. That'll be it for today's show, guys, but make sure you type those real ones down there in the comment section if you made it to the end of today's Steelers Talk video. I really do appreciate your guys' support. And later today, for Tomlin Tuesday, me and Ponzi will be going live. It all starts at 6 p.m. Eastern time today. We're going to have 3 great segments of Steelers coverage for you guys to enjoy and talk about, what to expect this week on Wild Card Weekend as the Steelers prepare to take on the Houston Texans on Monday Night Football. So appreciate all of your guys' support. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, here we go, Steelers.